Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Walking This Way's Impact Voice Podcast. I'm your host, Fermi Jackson Jr. I'm the CEO and founder of Walking This Way's Impact Voice Podcast, along with my co-host, Miss Desiree Bailey, back with me here in the building. And also, we have a featured co-host with us as well. She's from Matter of Fact, her and Desiree have the two Madam podcast that's dropping soon. So we have Michelle with us tonight. She's hanging out with us tonight. We got a very special guest that's going to be with us as well. She's going to be tuning in shortly. Miss LaTonya Whitehead, of course, she's a book author. The title of the episode is called Broken, dealing with purpose and stuff like that. So I'm very excited. So, ladies, how y'all week been?
I mean, it's Tuesday, but it feeling like a Monday. It's busy.
Yeah,
Yes,
it
ditto.
really it really has, cause I know I had to work over because we extremely short, so I had to end up staying over on yesterday morning, which from 16 hours from 10 o'clock Sunday all the way to 2:30 Monday. So we kind of short at work, but hey, it's time and a half, so I look for hey, I just make the best out of it. But it is kind of productive. We know that time is winding by, and I'm very excited what's going on. Jam packed episode. Pretty
Yes.
much, yeah. So we good. I know.
hmm
Let's talk before it gets get on. I know y'all got the two Man on podcast coming up soon. I know y'all excited about that. So y'all ladies elaborate on the podcast when it's coming out, when we're going to expect from this podcast. Because I know y'all ladies love to talk. So what will we expect when the podcast makes its debut?
Go ahead, Michelle.
All right, so I'm gonna take that we like to talk as a compliment.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
So
yeah.
let's
That's a
leave
good
that.
thing. Yeah, it's not a bad thing.
So Desiree and I are starting our own podcast called Two Madams. It's basically like bestie chit chat. We're gonna talk about everything that you can think about of dealing with in life, relationships, any aspect within the relationships, jobs, just things that we learn just living life, but from a more like venting and helping process through again like as bestie chit chat, because we used to do it all the time working at the job that we met through. We would have these conversations like for hours after
Yes.
work, and one day we were like, hey, we're both still in the parking lot, let's make this a podcast. And so 2 years later, here we are, finally making it happen. So it is still very much in the infant baby stage. Like, we have an Instagram. Our Instagram is at 2TWO Madams. We don't have like a what's it called, like a start date yet of when we're gonna have things starting to get published, but we do have some things posted on there, like different things that we do want to come across in conversation on the podcast. We are still trying to figure out our logistics because we are both in different parts of Texas. So trying to figure all that out still before we get started. So again, we're still learning how to crawl before we can walk and run. But as soon as we have more information, we'll let you know and let everyone else know as well.
Man, that's awesome stuff
And we'll
right
make
there.
sure we schedule it on an opposite day of this podcast because I don't think that I could miss,
Of
being
course.
on this podcast. So we'll definitely work the schedule of when we do it. Maybe it'll be one of those, late night podcasts, when you can't sleep at night and you just need somebody to vent
Maybe.
to. I think that might
need,
be a good time.
need
Yeah.
somebody to vent to.
Hey, listen, that's
That's
when us girls need each other, okay? When you're supposed to be asleep, you're gonna have a rough day the next day, but you think can't sleep. Who am I
Mm-hmm.
gonna talk to at this hour? The two
oh
madams,
yeah.
that's who.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
talking is good. Communication is good. That's so much needed, and I'm glad now that we're having more open dialogue, open more conversation. I got to
Mm-hmm.
give big shout out to my brother from another mother, Tydrick, and I talked to him earlier. We were just talking about everything. I mean, even though we don't talk as much, but we always like brother. Every time we talk, it seems like we talk every day. But we're just talking about relationships. We were just talking about their interaction with a woman and the things you want to talk about. And of course, Desiree, you can vouch for this. The type of conversation we do have here on the show when it comes to meeting someone and getting involved with someone, have these uncomfortable conversations, they say, but making it comfortable with the individual you talking to. And we've just really been talking about that. And I know it has really been helping out a lot of people because a lot of times, ladies, people be afraid to say what they want. They be afraid to say what they expect, and they're kind of like they get out their square and they'll compromise instead of just being truthful and honest with themselves. Like if you get with a person, they say, "Oh, I could do that," but you have not really sat down and thought about what I said. You answer so fast, and then
Mm-hmm.
this person gets so excited, go down the aisle, invest all this time and energy, then come tell them, "Well, I thought about it. I really didn't want to be here." And like, why you didn't say this in the beginning? So I'm glad now people are coming around now and say, you know what? I don't want to waste nobody's time, and I respect that.
I mean, that's the thing is
Mm-hmm.
we need to normalize, being able to be honest with one another, having those, conversations that are truthful and honest about what you want. If you're wanting a one night stand, just say you want a one night stand. I mean,
Yeah.
like, why are we beating around the bush about it? We are adults, and you're gonna, alleviate a lot of other problems later on if you're just forward about it.
That's true. I agree,
Yeah.
1,000%.
Yeah.
And we talking about a lot of this stuff.
Absolutely.
We were talking about this too. It was like when it comes to finances, talking to a person, how you get with your finances. Do you spend? Do you say this kind of some conversation we need to have is just based off of physical attribute. Then we start talking about sex. Women are sexual. Some women like this when they explore their sexual side, feel sexy and stuff. Have these type of conversations
Mm-hmm.
because people they are scared to have these type of conversations, like being afraid. Like you really don't have to be afraid. Like be you, be open, be honest, and that's why I think a lot of times people come with the judgmental mentality. So it's like I don't want to be judged. I don't want this person to look less of me. But if a person really feeling you and wants to be with you, hey, be you. And that's something people have a tough time with just
Mm-hmm.
being themselves because they afraid of being judged.
Oh, I agree completely.
Yeah.
So
Hi.
that
Hey,
hey,
how's
how you
it
doing?
going?
How's it going? Thank you. Welcome to Walking This Way's Impact Was podcast. We were just sitting here talking about a lot of stuff that we were talking about here on the show until you popped in. I know it's been some years since we've seen each
Absolutely.
other, and I know you reached out to me, and I'm glad. We're glad that you're here with us here on the show. We're gonna be
Mm-hmm.
talking about your book. I sent Desiree your information for your website so she get a
Yes.
feel of where we coming from and still get a feel of you, of course. And
Absolutely.
also a big shout out to Michelle. She's a featured guest co-host. Her and Desiree have the podcast coming
Hi.
out called Two Man Arms coming out soon. So reached out to her and she glad to accept the invitation from me and Desiree. So she's our featured guest co-host. So it's all
Well,
about plugging in disclosure as well for her, what they're doing with their podcast. And also to you, Tanya, as well with your book, your business, your venture, your ministry, and we love this stuff here on the podcast. So go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience for the very first time here on Walking This Ways Impact
absolutely.
Voice Podcast.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much, Furman. It has been a long time since we've seen each other. We were working ministry together in Alabama. So, and Desiree and Michelle, it's a pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much for having me. I am originally from Mobile, Alabama. I have been serving the Lord for a mighty long time. I used to operate a youth ministry when I was there, and I relocated back in 2013. So now I've been in Charlotte a few years, and I used to work in the retail industry, managing. So just about 2 years ago, the Lord called me out from that business and working for others and called me to do his will, which is my purpose. So that's what leads me here to this book. I got issues. So I am LaTonya Whitehead, formerly LaTonya Williams. I am an author, so I can proudly put the word author behind my name. That really makes me feel good, you know?
Yes, that's exciting.
Yes, it
Mm-hmm.
is. Yes, it is. So my
Yes.
book launch will be April the 29th. And of course,
Okay.
I'm having it in my hometown. And that's when my books will be on sale at that particular point, April the 29th.
And awesome. And like I said, you know what? You releasing your book on a great month. You know I say that for because
It's
this
his
month is my
birthday
birthday.
month.
His little
Woo!
Yeah,
birthday.
the
And you know
23rd of
what?
April, and I'll be
My
41 years young. So
That's
you
all
releasing this
right.
book on a great month. I want to let you know that.
Absolutely. Well, my mom's birthday is on the 30th, so she's really proud of that too.
Awesome, awesome. Hey, legends are made in April. You know what I'm saying? So not to my own horn, but I'm humble with it though. But like I said, we're very excited. And tonight's podcast is titled "I Got Issues." And now everybody look at that title like, "I got issues." I got issues too. We all got issues, and we know that our
Mhm.
issues either we gonna overcome our issues or our issues overcome us. But the most
Mhm.
important thing is about getting help. You know what I'm saying? So
That's right.
we want to thank God
Mhm.
that God does put people in our path to help us along this journey. I think I love the scripture. And the scripture really based off this podcast when it said, confess your faults one to another and then pray that you may be healed. And that's how the podcast was birthed out of that scripture along in James. Because you at that point, you have to talk about things. God wants us healed from these issues. He wants us healed from our infirmaries and our flaws and our shortcomings. And why you want to connect with somebody who's mature enough to say, you know what, we're gonna get through this thing. You know what, I'm cheering for you. You know what, you're gonna pull through this, and just
Absolutely.
really coach them along the way.
Mhm.
So I got issues. Let's talk about that.
I mean, when he announced this, I said, "Oh, I'm not missing this podcast because we all got some issues, and I'm ready for it. Feed it to me. I'm hungry."
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let me just tell you basically what number one, what inspired me to write. Okay. So I realized just that everyone has issues and everyone has a story. There's not a person without an issue that doesn't have
Mhm.
a story, whether it was a good story or a bad story, whatever the case may be. Each one of us has a story. However, the problem is most people are afraid or refuse to tell the bad parts of the story. They want everything to look like
Mhm.
it's golden. Social media, social media, it plays a,
Mhm.
a large impact on that, right? So people don't want to tell their stories for whatever their own reason is. However, I believe that I Got Issues is a book, it is a story that can impact, change people's lives, and to help them understand that they need to be heard, that their stories are important, that it's important that when we speak these things or write these things, that's where the healing starts.
Man, you know what, Tony,
Mhm.
you brought some interesting points. It's just like the fear, not expressing the bad, and it's like it's people still are worried about what people think about them. In a
Hmm.
way, it's like, you heard this growing up. Like, I may hear this. Well, if you do this, what were the neighbors gonna say? Or if you
That's right.
step out, and that's how we was programmed. So now it's like people still have that trauma. Tony, you like had to say that trauma, like worrying about what people
Hmm.
think. You have people who are apologetic all the time. Like they just apologize for any little thing. Like, I'm
Absolutely.
sorry. Like, why you keep saying I'm sorry? Don't apologize. That's some type of trauma. And go ahead.
And Furman, I also think that people desire to be liked.
Oh yeah, most definitely, most
So,
definitely.
Mhm.
everybody desires to be liked, and so with this book, I Got Issues, finding purpose after your pieces. I want people to understand that even though we have issues, the issue after the issue, there is still a purpose. So our issue
Mhm.
shouldn't stop life. We shouldn't stop living right there. After the divorce, after the miscarriage, after the loss of your child, there is purpose still for your life. There are things that God has created each one of us to do. So after the issues, there's still
Mhm.
purpose after those pieces.
Oh yeah.
And I love that. And I mean, secretively, I say one day I will write a book. I just feel like it's going to be like a trilogy, or what do you call it? Whenever you need more than three. of that.
That's right. It's a
Okay.
trilogy. That's right.
No, I'm saying like what's more after that? Like when you might need 5 or 6 books to tell your story, okay?
Uh-huh.
But for me, like I think that was something that I had personally struggled with for so long was, feeling embarrassed to talk about, any trauma that I had went through, feeling like I had to keep it a secret to protect others and or that I had to be ashamed of what had happened. And Michelle will tell you, I am very open now about everything that's happened to me in my past. One, because it is part of me, it's just not who I am. Does that make sense? Like, yes, it happened, but I'm not going to let it define who I'm going to be
That's right.
today. And
That's right.
so for me though, if I'm hiding it, if I'm keeping it in that back, file cabinet, pretending it didn't happen, then I'm not able to actually move forward to truly understand what was the purpose behind that. And one of the things that used to bother me more than anything, and so just to kind of give you a backstory, because I've been open about it to everybody on this show already, is being molested for many years as a child growing up, by the man who was raising me to be, he was supposed to be my father. And so, for so long, he would always say, oh, Desiree, God's not going to give you more than you can handle. And I would just be so angry thinking like, you know, don't anybody ever say that to me. Like, why would God give me this, and why would he think I deserved this? And, it really wasn't until I, became an adult, obviously many years of counseling, still many years of counseling,
Right.
that I was able to understand it's not that God wanted me to go through this. I have to learn to accept that. I can't be angry with the Lord for what had happened, right? But I am
Mhm.
going to say I can't change what happened. But now let me use my voice to be able to know that it's okay to talk about it. It's okay for others that have been holding it in and feeling ashamed to say there's other people just like you. Talk
Absolutely.
about it, bring it to light. And
That's right.
so for me, like I've always wanted to just be able to say, like, you're able to speak up. Like this is what happened to you, and you have every right to move forward in any which way you want to. And I'm not saying everybody needs to. Some people might be better, just not voicing it out to everybody, and I respect that. But if it's something that's troubling you, or that there might be a purpose, maybe that purpose was I became, I got my master's as a social worker, and now I want to be that voice for those that didn't feel like they had a voice. So maybe that was my purpose behind the trauma that I went through. So I feel like that's also how you can help heal from that, is taking the positive out of what it was negative, instead
That's
of
right.
just leaving yourself stuck, feeling sorry for yourself, feeling embarrassed, feeling ashamed, whatever it may be. Find something that you can do and turn that into a positive thing and try to grow. And I'm sorry that
Mhm.
was a long rant. I apologize.
Nah, you good. You know what? I'm glad we talking about this tonight, along with Tanya as well. As you know, she has a book on this, and you talking about some real life stuff, Desiree. Um, People have been through sexual abuse, where you being a male or a female, and that's what we want to talk about too, which is well, Tanya as well. Um, like Desiree situation, and I know that can affect a relationship down the road. I heard someone mention this before too. That when a guy he was talking to this girl, and of course they was intimate, and it was a flashback she had, and but she didn't mention it in the beginning that she was sexually assaulted, in her early years. So it was a position they would had sex to kind of remind her of a tragedy that happened to her. So all these, I know these things should be important to talk about, to address, because people still dealing with this stuff, and it's like they're not saying anything until an event happen or it occur, even though the person they with now is not hurting them, don't intend to hurt them, but the person they passed did.
Mhm.
So I'm glad this stuff is
Mhm.
more coming out now. Well, somebody need to know these things, what's going on with the individual in their life.
Furman, I recall, since we're talking about this, Desiree, thank you so much for opening up the topic. So my mother calls me an open book, and so does my children. When I meet people, I don't mind sharing, because you just never know what part of your story might help to heal them. And so since we're talking about, the molestation, I understand. I've been there. I understand. And I just literally, a couple of days ago, I just told my daughter I didn't realize I was healed from the molestation until I could no longer smell my uncle that touched
Mm.
me. Because when I would think about the story, I could remember what it smelled like. It would channel my senses. And I've gotten to a point, that's how I know I'm healed from it. I don't smell it anymore. You know? So
Yes. And that's absolutely, and I love that. And thank you again for sharing, and I know, everybody's got issues. We do. And, what maybe major to like you and I with what happened to us, could be something different that was major to somebody else. But I love that even like tonight that we're on here and we're able to try to normalize. Let's talk about it. It's
that's
okay
right.
to talk about it. If that's how
That's
you
right.
need to heal, like we should be able to count on one another and support one another, to be stronger as a community, to be able to have resources, and and to also, most importantly, it's definitely that healing, because for so long I felt like I had to keep that secret inside me. And everybody, and I would go to school like the happy girl, the girl that wanted to be friends with everybody, and people were like, oh, everything's so jolly in her life, and inside it was like hurting me so much more, because I was thinking, no, it's not. You guys don't
Mhm.
understand. But
Mhm.
really, how could they understand? How could
Mhm.
they know what kind of pain I was coming to school
Yes.
every day with, if I wasn't talking about it? Or like, Furman said, if you're not being honest in your relationship, if there's things that are still triggering you, if you still have not healed, you should be able to openly speak to your partner. Otherwise, when those little things happen, it could be a scent. I will say, like, with my first, husband, and we were together for, nearly 2 decades. And, I couldn't stand if he had like a tub of Vaseline in the house. Like I
Mm.
would freak out. I would start
Mm.
crying. I mean, in full on hyperventilation, like paranoid. Like, I mean, it was devastating. It was traumatic. Let's be honest. But I was so happy that and he needed it. Their family owned a painting company. So, they have to put Vaseline around their eyes or in their nose when they're doing spraying and stuff. And so he had to have it. But he respected me that he left it out in the garage in a spot where I wouldn't see. And it was because I was able to speak to him and tell him, this is why you cannot have this in the house. This is a trigger for me. And had I not, he'd probably just think I was some kind of crazy lady who needed to go see a doctor for having a phobia against Vaseline. I don't know.
Mhm.
Right,
Mhm.
because that Vaseline, what happened was the individual used it as a harmful thing towards you. And this stuff needs to be talked about. And we know it's taking place every day, not every day. Somebody in your neighborhood is being molested. Somebody on your job or schools, something happened somewhere. Somebody being physically abused somewhere. Somebody strung out on drugs, alcohol, selling their body. So much stuff is going on in our world. Just like that mass shooting that happened in Kentucky on yesterday. The guy lost his job, got fired, went and killed them people at the bank that he worked at. A lot of stuff is going on, and that's another thing. We don't know
Mhm.
what's going on in these jobs too. Somebody could lose their job today, for it by you minding your own business, just come up there and randomly just take your life. This stuff is happening in our world right now
That's
as we
right.
speak.
Mhm. That's right.
And I think it's
I
important
think
that
there's
we
a
go
like
ahead,
a
Michelle.
lack. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Michelle.
No, I was gonna say I think there's a lack of a feeling of safety, and that's why a lot of people don't feel comfortable enough to speak up, whether it's regarding abuse or other mental health issues that could relate to someone who like lost their job and now they're going like in a manic episode, right? Um, but specifically back to like the sexual abuse things, I mean, it can be easy to say like communicate, but I think it takes a lot for that person to feel safe, because more often than not, the person that abused them wasn't a stranger. It was
Mm,
someone that they were supposed to trust and
Mhm.
someone they were supposed to be safe with. So once that violation has happened, how how are they supposed to trust anyone else that they love or say
Absolutely.
that they love them? Because that's already been allied before, like
Mhm.
that trust, that safety net it's no longer, it's non-existent.
right.
Mhm.
And
Or
I think
like,
just
what?
like,
Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Desiree.
I was going to
No,
say, I,
go
I was going to
ahead.
say, I think it's almost just like, too, what, Tanya said when she opened up, we're so worried about wanting people to like us that,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we don't know who we can trust to tell, because we don't want them to think differently of us. You know,
That's
you
right.
also don't want to make
Mm-hmm.
the other part of your family upset with you because you've now let out this, you know, you've opened Pandora's box to
That's
a
right.
skeleton in the family's closet. So you're in fear of speaking up because you're
Mhm.
afraid of who may now look at you differently. And we do live in a society where, especially social media, makes us want to have the most likes. You want the
That's
most
right.
hearts. You want the most views on your TikToks. You want the most comments, you know, but really, you know, what are we covering up?
Mhm.
Mm.
That's what I like to say is
Mhm.
what are you covering up? Sometimes people have to overcompensate because there's something else deeper inside that maybe they just really have going on. And you don't know what somebody else is going through. And we're so quick to judge. We're so quick to be like, "Oh, this person did this because of that." Really, you don't know what's going on. My coworkers could have a bad day and I could be like, "Oh my gosh, they're being total jerks." But really, maybe there's something going on at home. Maybe something
Mhm.
happened with their teenage child, and so, but again, we're so quick to judge other people instead of saying, like, you know what, maybe just paying them a nice compliment could really help change that attitude around for the day.
Yeah,
That's
most
right.
definitely. And I know,
Mm-hmm.
I know, Tony, we had some questions for you. That's why I have questions, and then the conversation it turns into this and stuff. And but it's a
Sorry.
beautiful thing. No, it's a beautiful thing, and because what we love here is organic, and I love being around beautiful people who have been there, done that, and love sharing their story. Because somebody that's listening tonight will benefit from this, whether they listen to us live or they may listen to the replay, but they are getting something from this. I know you had the book out. I know you're excited about the book. Let me
I
ask you this.
mhm.
Have you always wanted to be a book author, or this is something you just walked into? How did they come about?
No, Furman. Actually, I wanted to be a school teacher.
Oh, really? You like a school teacher?
I, I wanted to be a school teacher. I like teaching and I like pouring into to students. Well, youth. You know, I love pouring into youth. And the book, the way the book came about. First of all, a couple of years ago, my son and I were having a conversation, and the conversation got really really deep about relationships and so forth, and I just opened up to my son, and he started asking me questions. You thought about having a blog, a podcast, because you don't mind sharing. And I was like, no, I don't really know much about that. So it went in the back of my mind. I never thought about it anymore. And so about 2 years ago, the Lord had me to leave my job and to follow his purpose. At that moment, I had no idea what that was. I didn't know what that looked like. I struggled with it. You know, some days I woke up happy I didn't have to go to a 9 to 5 or deal with people. And then there were days that, you know, I would cry because I'm used to working. And so I was feeling like I was just falling apart. And so he had me to start a women's class. I teach a women's class every Wednesday, Empowered Women. So now let me just tell you this. This is a disclosure. I don't like public speaking or talking on the mic. People would find that hard to believe. That's one of my biggest fears, right? I get social anxiety in a room with a lot of people. So he told me to start this class. I heard the Spirit of the Lord say, start this class, Empowered Women, every Wednesday. We've been going strong now for almost 2 years. So I started that class. In that class, he showed me how to start publicly speaking. I began to learn from that point. And just about a year ago, he said, now it's time to write your book. And I'm like, Lord, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You want me to say this? And you sure you want me to say that? You're going to tell them that because there is somebody, exactly what you said earlier, that needs to hear what you have to say. What you have to say. First of all, people, I believe, my personal belief is that people relate better to people that look like them. I
Mm.
think people can gravitate to people that have, in some way, did what they did, been where they've gone, been where they've been, or people that totally understand, or if they think the person cares, you know. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's how we got the book.
And you know what? Y'all saying some heat from fire tonight. It really is. So that's why I put in the comment section, tell your story. You know, I got issues to tell your story. So those that's listening tonight, tell your story. Your story can help somebody in the long run. You never know what the person may be going through. Suicide is real. We have people taking their lives. You have especially males who will take their own lives and leave their family behind. Um, Women, it's like wow, there's just so much stuff that's transpiring, and people
So
need help. I know Desiree, she works with a lot of veterans that are in these predicaments in these circumstances. Desiree, go ahead.
no, I was just going to ask you, like, did you find it hard during like writing this book? Did you find it difficult for you to kind of like put it together to make it like I'm excited? I'm ready to read. Actually, I just need you to autograph me one and send it to me so
I
that every
will.
day I am inspired by your remembering. You're reminding me every morning it's okay to have issues. Like we're
That's
going to take
right.
something good out of that. So I'll need
That's
that
right.
autograph from you. But like I think for me, like a lot of times when I'm trying to put things together and when I say, okay, I'm going to make something of this, it's like, how do I get it sequenced where it's right? Does that make sense? How do I tell this story to where it makes sense? Did you find that difficult in writing this book?
I'm going to be totally honest with you. That wasn't what I found difficult. The writing part came easy for me. Now, I was never a scholar in school. I really had to study to pass when I made honor roll. However, the hard part for me was just sitting down doing it. Once I started, I never wrote a manuscript. I just started typing. So the hardest part was trying to stay undistracted. There were times I didn't feel like sitting down typing on the computer. Yeah, I wanted to be on Facebook. I love Family Feud. I wanted to watch TV shows, but the Lord kept reminding me, you have to finish this. You have to finish. It's important that you finish this because what you have, what you possess is going to change somebody's life. It's going to save their lives. So that wasn't the hard part. Writing it wasn't hard.
See, I think with my ADD, I'm like, I'll be thinking like, and I'll be on like this great, like little path of what I'm saying. And then all of a sudden it's like, my head's like, but you need to make sure that you let them know about this part too. So then I'm all like scrambled around. And then the next thing you know, I've got like all these different spiral notebooks about all these different things that have gone on. And then I'm like, how is any of this going to make sense to anybody if they ever try to go back to read this? Like, to put it in a doable, sequence there. But I was going to include this, when you said you thought you were going to be a teacher, that's what honey, you are a teacher. You have been teaching more than you, and maybe not in that formal classroom setting, but you know what? You writing your book, you telling your story, you teaching to the women on those Wednesday nights, like you definitely are doing what you thought you were going to do, which was to teach. And God just had a different way of you utilizing that for everybody.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that.
True.
And we know we're going to take a quick commercial break, and after that, we're going to jump right back into our Q&A conversation. And the title of the show is "I Got Issue." We'll be back, everybody.
I do too, Furman.
Hi, my name is Delashawn Bordeaux, and I'm the founder of Speak Our Truth, a nonprofit for survivors of sexual assault. Join us April 8th, 2023 for I Survived From Trauma to Triumph. This time will be spent together sharing stories of triumph from survivors of sexual assault, domestic violence, divorce, and sickness. So grab your girls and make sure y'all purchase your tickets at www.speakourtruth.org. It's time for us to redefine the beauty that lies beneath our pain. See you there.
Hey, what's up, everybody? We are back here on Walking This Way's Impact Force podcast. I'm your host, Furman Jackson Jr. I'm the CEO and founder of Walking This Ways, and we are broadcasting right now from the DFW. That is Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. And we're very excited along with my lovely co-host, Desiree, of course, and our featured guest co-host, Michelle. And these two ladies are part of the Two Madame podcast that's going to come in soon. And also we have Toya with us as well, author. Of course, I've been knowing her for some years, and like I said, it's been a year since we last seen each other at that time. Let's talk about divorce. I know I've been there before. I know you was there at the time, and you and your former husband at that time. How did y'all really cope? Because I know I'm a child. My parents divorced, at an early age when I was a child with me and my brothers. And divorce can be hard for the family. That separation, no, the husband this way, the wife this way. How did y'all really cope with life after divorce? 'Cause we know that's a tough thing for anybody can go through, the separation, the paperwork, the back and forth. How did you cope with all that?
Who's the question to, Furman?
I'm talking to you, Toy. Tanya.
Okay. So I'll tell you, divorce for me was not easy. And without giving away too much of my book, you know, the divorce for me at one point in my life uh, had me mourning or grieving for my ex-husband. You know, it was like a death was taken over, you know, because the Bible said you're no longer two but one. So a ripping apart of what was one can hurt. Can you imagine losing an arm? You know, that's painful, you know, losing a part of your body. So divorce for me was very, very difficult, you know, so much so that, you know, in my divorce, I contemplated suicide because, you know, didn't think you could live without him. You know, I didn't think I could live without him. You know, what else was there for me, you know, if I couldn't have him? You know, and I know that I can't be or wouldn't be the only person to feel like that. But divorce is damaging, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
And it's still, and I know a lot of people they celebrate. I mean, don't get me wrong. You got some bad apples. You got some jacked up individuals. Don't get me wrong, male and female. But the thing about it, as a child, like I said, when I went through with my parents, I was a child, and is that it's different. Like, okay, I'm not in the same home with my father or whatever, and it's different because when I was growing up, I always thought my parents would be together forever. That's how I was visiting as a child. But now as you get older and they went through that, it's like, wow. And now only that, I went through the same thing before my own. So it's like I always want to be married. But when I said I got married, I always want to be married for a long time. I always want to be married to one individual. That was my mindset at the time. But
mhm,
then it's like to that point where was I ready for marriage? No, I wasn't. I don't fault my ex-wife. And you get a lot of people, they want to blame the ex for this and that. I'm not that type of dude. My ex-wife was a great woman, of course, but at that time in my life, I was not ready for marriage. And I'm gonna tell you that. I remember I was at work and this guy told me, he said, you know what? You got married out of season. It wasn't your time to get married yet. It was just time for you and God. But he said God forgave you, but you wasn't supposed to get married yet, and I had to start all over again. I understand that because you have to be very, very, very mature enough for a marriage, for especially for a man to be a husband. First, we got to know yourself. Then you got to be able to know how to lead yourself. If you're not able to lead yourself, how can you lead your family? So I don't fault my ex-wife for everything. A lot of people want to bash their ex-wife. No, I ain't got time for all that. As a man, I'll be more accountable for my own action. I just was not
mhm.
ready at that time. At least I thought I was, but I wasn't.
Yeah, and I agree with you. You have so many people that are out there. You have the burning of the dresses. You have the and I get everybody's doing something for a different reason. And I think that even with my sons being adults now at 21, 22, but still my babies, I still mourn for that divorce of their father.
Mhm.
Not for the fact that I'm not with their dad, as in like I still have those feelings that I wish that we could have made it work. It's not that. It's the sense of, guess what? Now I've given my son some issues because now my sons are having to, you know, almost still in a sense, even at this age, I feel like sometimes it's a choosing between these two parents. And
Mhm.
not because we make them feel like they need to choose, but because of the fact that, they are having to go to multiple different family events. And what if those family events are on the same time? And, then just struggling, my youngest son is a father himself of, my beautiful granddaughter. And wanting to make sure that he keeps his family together, that he's the most active father he can be in his daughter's life. And so I do feel like that, I mourn because they deserved to have those parents that were together through everything. And it really breaks my heart. So I completely agree with you on that whole mourning of a
Mm-hmm.
divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna ask you this too, Tonya, ask you as well. Children sometimes they feel like they could be. Why do children feel like they're the victim? Like when I say the victim, they feel like they may be responsible for it. Like they feel like they did something wrong. Why did daddy leave? Or why mama? You know what I'm saying? Why do the children feel like that?
That is so amazing, because let me tell you, that was one of the things I thought. So my mother was married to my father. However, that marriage ended when I was very, very young. I don't even remember the marriage. It was so, I was so little. However, I did have a stepfather, and at the time I was a very bad teenager when my mother and stepfather were having their issues. And my stepfather was really a great dad to me in the home. And so when they were going through the things that they were going through, I assumed, my exactly what you said. I believe that I was the blunt of their problems. I was the fault of that. And it wasn't until maybe 2 years ago that I had a conversation with him to ask him, was it me? And he explained to me, what happened, and that it wasn't. But a lot of times, because we don't have an outlet, and as children we don't understand the dynamics of marriage. We don't understand the dynamics of divorce. I mean, our minds can't understand it. So we feel just that. It's hard for me to answer why. However, we do, though. We do seem to think that. I wished I could have lived in a household where, and I've had conversations with people who's lived in households where they've never seen their parents argue. They've never seen their parents have a bad day. So when a divorce did happen, it totally shocked them. Where did this come from? However, my household was different. Signs were there. I could see things, but, of course, I can't really say why I felt like, I
Right.
was to blame.
I think it's also to do with kind of what you said. When parents are fighting in front of their kids, it's hard for those parents not to bring up something about the kids in that fight. And the kids
Mm-hmm.
are too young, or too immature to
Mm-hmm.
process what exactly was said. All they know is that their name was brought into it. Mom and dad are fighting. Mom and dad are going to get a divorce. So, unfortunately, we're not being mature about things in front of our children. We're giving them adult problems, and
Mm-hmm.
they're carrying that burden on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like it's really deep. And as we just talk about that, let's talk about we talk about marriage. We talk about the marriage. We were talking about this before you came on. So we were talking about how now people come more open now and more upfront now. And I ain't say everybody's doing it, but people come more upfront, more honest. And from a male perspective, guys get so caught up on look. They get caught up on the physical attribute of her, but not getting to know her character. And then when they end up getting with her, then it's like, oh man, why I ain't think about this, or vice versa. But I'm glad we're maturing now to the point it's like, okay, I'm getting past the looks. I just want to know about your character. I want to know you as an individual. I'm not worried about the hair, the makeup, and the body. That gets a lot of us in trouble. But now to the point, okay, I want to know your character. I want to know you should know my character. You got my curiosity going. So I'm glad now I will speak for myself, maturing to the area. Okay, you know what? I just want to know you and
Mm-hmm.
see where can this go. Because I don't want to waste my time, and I don't want to waste your time. A lot of times we waste people's time, and that's something we can never get back.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So Furman, let me say this, and talking about marriage. Well, let me say this first. So let me tell you just a little bit about the book,
Okay.
without telling you too much.
Yeah,
All
don't
right.
tell too much. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the book is basically my autobiography. Okay. And I like to explain that I understand what it's like being on both sides of the coin. I've been the tails and I've been the head. So I explain that to say that I know what it's like to be on the bottom and also on the top. Remember what I said earlier, that people respond better to people that look like them, that they can associate themselves with, right? And so I've been married, I've been divorced, I've been a single mother. I've been married with children. I've been cheated on. I've been a cheater. This is me just being transparent. You know, we talked about earlier the fact that, most people like to just tell Furman, you said about your ex-wife, you wouldn't want to dare just put all the blame on her. So, in my book, I tell stories, not only do I, tell stories about other people, but I do tell, who I was and who I had to become and how I had to mature in order to be healed and to be a better person. And I do believe that in a marriage, in order to become a better person, you have to first have something, a guideline, something to keep you from stepping out of the boundaries, and for me, it's the word of God. The word of God keeps me confined, so I don't have a thought about stepping out. Rules have to be set in place.
Right. Right. You know what? You brought up an interesting point, Tanya, because that is important. If you look at that, and I learned this too. The large of it, like I like jobs. If you go to your place of employment and you being a business woman yourself, you have rules in place, you have guidelines in place, and as you have employees, you expect them to follow your rules, your guidelines, and stuff like that. And it's to the point, okay, these are my rules, it's stuff like that. And I think that should be important in our lives too, is having standards, not lowering our standards, not coming out to be accepted. I know they brought up earlier how
Mm-hmm.
we want to be accepted by people. So it's like, even though this is what I believe in, but I don't want them to leave me, so I'm just going to accept it. But then deep down inside, you're doing more harm to yourself. If that makes sense, what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Just to please other people or please this person because I don't want them to leave me.
Absolutely. I can attest to that.
Mhm.
Um, I can totally attest. I was in a marriage and I said yes. And in my mind, while saying yes, while he was proposing, I was saying, say no, say
Mm-hmm.
no, say no. But I
Mhm.
didn't know, you rarely see anybody say no. When somebody gets down on their
Mhm.
knee and places a ring on your finger, you feel obligated to say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what that mean? They just do that stuff. I remember I did that one time. I did
All
no,
right, you do got some issues. Let's talk about this, Furman.
no,
Woo!
like I said, I know, and I learned this too. I remember when I was 20, and I remember I met this girl, and I ain't gonna lie, this girl right here, I believe if this would have worked out, I still would have been married to her to this day. I'm going to test to that. But at the time, I was very immature because she brought up a conversation, and it's like I was trying to find out who I am, going back and forth, and she brought up something. She was like, "If we can't get nothing for the kids, what else?" She said, "We had kids, can get nothing for the kids. How are we gonna provide?" At that time, I was in between jobs. So it's to the point, okay, in order for you to be the man, you gotta be the leader, you gotta be the provider. It's like, okay, your family depends on you. But if you're not in that form of leadership, everything will crumble. And that's something I didn't realize and I didn't look into till later on. And I end up going through this situation. But going to the thing of if I was fully developed mentally to that point where I'm at today, if I had that mindset I had back then, I would have been married to her to this day. That's one person I cared about, I love, I cherish a lot. I really did. And that's somebody I would never step on her. And one time she told me she can't have any kids at all. She told me that. And she said, I can't have no kids. Will you still be there? Yeah, because I want you. That's all that I want. I'm not concerned about anything else but you. But then I learned that in my life, it's like it takes a. I'm glad we talking about this tonight, but hey, I've been there. I've been there, done that, and I know how it is. But it's gonna take a lot of growing up to
You know
do.
what? I used to be the person who would never speak up. I was in a relationship once for 6.5 years, and that was what 3-4 years too long because I didn't want to speak up about my like I did a lot of like group thinking, so like just agreeing with what he thought or like what we should
Mm-hmm.
do. Like we were always attached at the hip. Everyone knew it was me and him all the time. That we weren't separate individuals. And when I noticed that I didn't agree with a lot of what he thought and believed, I was like, okay, but I don't want to be alone. I'm scared. Like this is all I know. So I was like, I just tolerated a lot of his behaviors, a lot of his thought process, a lot of like his worldviews, and it turned into me just tolerating and accepting and just being okay. Yeah, I'll just stay here and not say anything until I started to speak up and started creating that tension between us. But at that point, it was like, okay, we were both in agreement that we've spent so much time together. Let's just write it out as long as we can. But for me, I was like, I'm checked out mentally. I'm just with you because I need certain things from you. And then until I'm good, then I'm out. Like I'm out for real. And then, so 4 years later, I was like, bye. I don't want to be with you anymore. So I in that one relationship, I've grown from not speaking up to starting to speak up to like, okay, I'm just going to use you while I have you until I'm done with you. Which
Yeah.
I've healed from that. I'm not that person anymore. But
Well, hey, at least you
Look,
being honest
everybody
with
got
that.
quiet. Everybody was like,
just
so
throwing that
tell
out
me
there.
about that, Michelle.
I'm I'm not
Man.
that person anymore. I have grown up. I have matured. I have found God since then. I've gone to counseling since then. So I am not that toxic person anymore. However, through my healing, I've recognized that that was hurtful to both me and him.
Right.
The not speaking up alone, but like just all of it together.
Well, I'm glad you brought, speaking up and like he grew from that and all the other stuff. That's a good thing.
It's
And
so
I
important.
and I
It
think
is
about that.
so important.
It
And
is,
I
and I think about that.
and I
But
think that's what we find ourselves doing is we're losing ourselves into the being comfortable with somebody, even if we know that it's not the best fit for us. But it is that comfortable thing. Me at
Yes.
almost the age of 44, I have all my other friends that are like, well, I couldn't imagine if I had to find a guy at this age. You know what? I'm not looking for somebody to fill that void. I'm looking for what I've been a mom for all these years. My boys are now out of the house. I'm still trying to figure out who the heck I am without being a mama full time. And right now, really, this is like the prime of my life. Don't get me wrong. If you have that person and you stay married and you can still love each other past your kids, oh my gosh, do I give you some shout outs, kudos? I'll buy you dinner, okay? Not really. Don't anybody take me up on that offer. I'm too broke. But the thing of it is that we think, we're pressured into getting married because of our families think we should at a certain age or because we've been with somebody for so long. Even if in our head we're saying, don't do it, don't do it. And so we're settling to suffice other people's needs and not putting ourselves first.
right.
That's right.
I'm glad you brought that up
Yeah.
because we don't it never got to change your experience life. Like you mentioned earlier, that's right. Well, your parents would you married at a certain age and stuff like that. I ain't saying regulars, but living life, knowing who you are, learning how to live in your own, learn how to provide for yourself, learn how to learn different things and travel and stuff like that. But we're never taught how to live. And that's what my dad told me. He said, I never got a chance to experience my life. You went from home to marriage, but you never got that time to experience life. Get out there, live on your own, have your own place. Just learn you, know you. And that's something we have Tanya I want to talk about that is keeping ourselves in the box, but not outside the box. We're comfortable, like you said, we be content where we at, but we never get a chance to step out. Like Peter stepped off the boat to walk on water when he seen Jesus there. He had to get out of his comfort zone in order for him to reach that mark, even though he had the faith, but then he allowed things to come and but Jesus picked him back up. But getting out that comfort zone. And that's something I had to do. I left Mobile. I was in Mobile all my life. I transitioned here to Dallas. Know nobody from Adam. But I wanted to get out my comfort zone. I wanted to explore. I want to know who Furman really is. In other words, I want to challenge Furman to the max. Is okay. I know it's that man inside him. So it's time for me to test that man that's on the inside of me. Go to a place where nobody don't know me, I don't know them, but it had to teach me how to grow up. It made me think about the scripture when God talked to Abram. He said, "Leave your kindred, leave everything, leave all this familiar territory, and go to the land I will show you." He had to trust God through the process. Okay, you get away from all this familiarity because you're too comfortable. So I'm gonna take you to a place where I'm gonna show you where you don't know nobody, they don't know you, but who you don't have to trust. You have to trust God through the process. You say, you know what?
That's
I'm
right.
here. God, I need you. I need your guidance. I need your wisdom. I need you to order my steps. You gonna connect me to the right people. You connect me to the right places. And that's I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah. And Furman,
Preaching,
I
friend.
have to
Okay.
agree with you. I'm sorry, Michelle, were you talking?
No, I said he sounds like he's preaching over there.
Yeah, he
I'm over here
is.
feeling like I'm in church. Like, okay, like yes, yes.
I'm going to conform right now. Yes.
So Furman, I do have to agree with you when it comes to, understanding the power of listening to the Holy Spirit and doing what he says. It wasn't easy, and I mentioned this earlier as we started talking in the podcast. It wasn't easy to walk away from my job. I don't know a lot of people that are walking away from six-figure incomes to the unknown.
Mm.
It was totally unknown to me what I would do next. All I knew was that I was not in the will of God. I didn't know that much. This wasn't it. The company I worked for before told me that they moved me from Georgia to North Carolina because I was making a difference in people's lives. And I said, okay, that sounds about right. That sounds like me. However, when I got here, that wasn't the case. I was no longer able to, impact people, touching their life. All the company wanted was, and I get it, was money. It was about making money. And so that didn't sit well with me. So I understand what it's like, Furman, to go from what you know to totally the unknown and just trust God, because he will give us clear instructions and directions. But most times our issue is, or our problem is that we think, Lord, this don't look right. Oh, Lord, this don't feel right. I don't know, Lord. Your blessing that you said is coming to me. It's not coming fast enough. So, Lord, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to help you out a little bit. But don't you understand? God does not need our help. He has the plan all mapped out from the day that we were in our mother's womb. It was all mapped out for us. We just end up being so determined to do things our way that we step out of his will. And when we do that, I'm sorry, y'all, but when we do that, Michelle, Desiree, and Furman, what we do when we step out of his will, we bring on issues for ourselves. And then what do we find ourselves doing? Oh, Lord, please help me. Lord, please get me out of this.
Yeah.
That's what we do. When
Yes.
we step out of his will and step into our own, we bring problems onto ourselves. I got issues, y'all. I'm talking to me first.
Oh no, baby, you're preaching. You're preaching to me. I'm hearing you loud and clear. I don't even need these headphones in right now. And I think that that's another thing about just in the growth of things. For so long, I found myself always, like, Lord, please let this work for me. Lord, please give me this. Lord, please provide this. Lord, please this. Lord, please. He already knew what he was going to provide. He already knows what his plan is for me. So now I've learned that I'm not going to pray for individual things. I'm going to say, Lord, I'm asking you to do what you know is already right for me. Give me the comfort while I'm waiting for that answer. If it's meant to be, Lord, you're going to deliver it. No matter how much I pray for one thing or another, you already know what you've got in store for me. So let me just have the comfort that I need to sit patiently, trust, and wait. And that is something that we are so troubled at doing, because we want that instant gratification. We pray and we say, Lord, let there be $1,000 in my bank account. We think that if we log in real quick, there's going to be $1,000 in our bank. We want those answers from God right then and there. But you know what? And it may not be, it may not even be in the next week that you find those answers from the Lord. You know what? A year from now, when he blesses you with something else, you're like, it was that one time that I said, Lord, please.
Mhm.
He's going to, it's in his timing. And really, going back on to things that Furman said and what you had said too earlier, is, we are worried about looking for that outer appearance in somebody. Both females do it for the men are doing it for the females. And you're thinking that that's going to be a great foundation to go on. No, your great foundation is really, honestly, the Lord should be your foundation for having that good, healthy relationship.
Man,
When you both
that's right.
are invested in that. And I don't want to sit here and say that, I'm the biggest, Bible person in the world. I'm not. I can promise you that. I'm a sinner because I got issues. But I'm going to repeat that for any of you that were cut out at that moment. Okay. I'm a sinner. I have issues. Okay. But I know that, you know what, even whenever the man who was supposed to be my father failed, even when the boyfriends failed, when the husbands had failed, yes, I said that plural, in case any of y'all missed that too, that was husbands. You know who has not failed me? You know which man has not failed me through every trial and tribulation that I've faced? And that was one man, and that is my Father, the Lord Jesus Christ. And so I'll tell you what,
Amen.
that's my foundation. That
Amen.
is where I want my roots to be grounded. And if I can't have a partner that's going to do that same thing with me, then we're not going to work, because at the end of the day, he's going to be what carries us through. It's not going to be your looks. It's not going to be how much money you bring into the household.
Right.
It's not going to matter how many times you flatter me and tell me that I look beautiful. If I don't have that foundation, I am determined in all my mind that I know that relationship's not going to work. So I'm going to sit, I'm going to trust, I'm going to be patient. And guess what? Maybe he thinks that I should go and start being a nun. Can I be a nun after I've had sex? I don't know. Is that possible? Can people do that? Is that really, can you do that? Can you be a nun afterwards, or do you have to always be? That might be a whole nother conversation.
I mean, some people do that. Some people they have that be like it's some people that does do that. They abstain themselves from that stuff for real. But it's just about being focused and just being knowing who you are. And remember, think about the scripture when Paul said, "Do not be unequally yoked." He said it for a reason, and that right there could be part of the greatest advice ever received from Paul. Do not be unequally yoked. The stuff we talk about, what people we get so unequally yoked, we don't think about the consequences till later on. Even though you don't have no peace about the situation, I've been there before too, where you don't have no peace about the situation, but you still override that peace. When you don't have peace, it's a warning. Hey, step back. It's like, okay, so I'm gonna use this analogy, this logic. A rattlesnake don't change. What do a rattlesnake do? A rattlesnake warns you to stay away. If you don't stay away, what's gonna happen? The rattlesnake gonna strike you. It's like, and we have that mentality. Oh, I'm just still gonna walk near the rattlesnake. He ain't gonna do it today. Wrong. He's gonna do it today because he did it yesterday. It don't change. But the Bible tells us to be like a serpent, but be friendly to the dove. A serpent is always on his guard. A serpent is not, like I said, the rattlesnake is not gonna let you get near him at all. He's gonna warn you to get back, stay away. He's gonna protect himself. That's how God wants to operate. Even though we gotta be harmless like a dove, at the same time, have that protection. Okay, step away, step back. I gotta protect myself. I gotta protect my inner peace. I gotta protect my joy. And the Holy Spirit lets us know that stuff. Okay, stay away from that. And we override it, and we reap the consequences of it, and we go right back to square one again. I do not want to put myself in them situations no more. I love my peace, and I do not want to interrupt my peace, because a lot of people, they get so lonely, and they get with the wrong individual, and now they ain't got no peace. I don't want that. That sounds so stressful just thinking about it.
It is.
I mean, but you got those people that by people, me, I'm the people. You've got those people that see those red flags, and then all of a sudden they become a hoarder of those red flags. I think it's like, hey, let me see how many red flags I can capture or something. I don't know. And and it's, sadly, I feel like that, I feel like I sometimes will think, oh, I can be the difference. I I can, I will show that person that unconditional love that they never had, and then change them to be that unconditional lover back.
Mm-hmm.
I've yet to succeed in that. I just want to go ahead and put that down on the record as well. But I have good hope. I have good intentions of wanting to continue to stay in unhealthy relationships. And even if they're like, not healthy for me mentally, physically, whatnot. But what would you say, LaTonya, what would you say for those individuals that are just becoming keepers of those red flags versus paying attention to those red flags?
All right. Well, let me say this first, Desiree, is you are me. I'm like, oh, we are one and the same. So first of all, people that have a love language of being servants, we have to be careful to not always what my husband calls spring into action. We think that we can serve, fix, help everybody. So what I would just recommend to those people who have the same love language as I do, to serve, is that we have to stop for a minute. We have to assess. That's the problem. A lot of times servants, we move without assessing. We have to assess the situation. We have to ask questions, the who, what, when, where, and the why. What is this going to do? Who is it going to do it for? How is it going to help? What you have to ask those tough questions. And when the tough questions equal a negative or a red flag, we have to actually stop. You know what happens if we are driving and we don't, what could possibly happen if we're driving and we don't stop at a red light? We
Yeah.
get smacked.
Crash.
We could get hit. And that's what happens when we see the red flags and we don't stop. So I recommend those of you who see the red flags, you see it, you know it, and you get that unction. The spirit will talk to you, you know it. When you feel it and you see it and you hear it and you know it, you have to stop. You have to detour and change your direction.
And I agree with you so much. I feel like I need to lay on the couch or something. I feel like this might be a session for me by the time this podcast is done. But what if you're the type of person who says, I see these red flags, but gosh, we're all human and I've got red flags too. So you don't stop when you see those red flags, and I'm not speaking just to myself. I'm speaking to a lot of my girlfriends too. We like, I feel like sometimes, like I can sit there and say, but I'm understanding, I'm empathetic to what they've gone through. I understand why they might be the way that they are. So then I'm more forgiving. I'm more tolerant of things that I knew better of. But and I also think to myself, I've had so many people that just gave up on me. And I'm not talking about just in a relationship. I'm talking about people in life, right? Family, friends. And I again, what we said at the beginning, so you never know what somebody's going through. So I hate to just give up on people, even when I see those red flags. And I'm not even talking about just in relationships here. I'm talking about friendships, so how would you say, go ahead and tell me it's unhealthy.
I'm gonna ask you a question. I'm simply gonna ask you a question. How long do you want to keep hurting?
So I just had this conversation just an hour before the podcast started, right? And I sat there and was talking to my really dear good friend Mindy, and I said, Mindy, what bothers me the most is I know when things are not healthy for me. I'm smart enough, I'm educated enough, I've been through enough life experiences that I know that this is not how I want it to continue. I don't want to keep feeling this way. Why am I not strong enough sometimes to say enough is enough and just walk away? I don't know the answer to that. I pray about it. I just pray about it because I don't know what else to do.
So when I listen, I am not a licensed therapist, so I don't, I can only speak on, once again, what I know and what I believe, my belief system, and that is the Holy Spirit. So earlier I stated, a lot of times we pray and we ask God for things, and when He delivers, we still tamper with it. You know, in the book of John, chapter 14, it tells us that whatever we ask when we pray, we can have it. So I can't understand why God wouldn't allow these things to be gone. I don't see, Desiree, why is it that you're still holding on to people and things that hurt you? Because the book says it. He says it in John 14. Whatever you ask for when you pray, I will give it to you. Okay. So what I do, what I feel in my whole heart is, are we, and I'm talking about me too. It's in here. It's in here. Are we still picking up the things that we're supposed to be letting go? I heard a preacher say one day that the word bondage, his definition of bondage was when we're supposed to leave, but we desire to stay.
Hmm.
Sometimes we put ourselves in bondage when we know we're supposed to leave, but we desire to stay. So, Desiree, I ask you, I bring the question right back to you. Are you putting your own self in bondage? And
Absolutely.
you,
And in different situations, yes. Family, friends, relationships, yes. That's
Mm.
me answering. That's answering, as honest as I can be.
So what
Yeah,
are you going to do about it?
Well, as soon as I hang up this podcast, I'm going to be praying. That's what I'm going to be doing. Look at, I am going to be saying some serious prayers. I mean, to every religion there is out there, and maybe it all come to me. I don't know, but I'm definitely gonna it's a lot. It's a lot to it's a lot to take in, but I know that there's a lot of things that need to be done. And really, I said this last night too. I get treated sometimes the way that I'm treated because I've allowed it. I've made it
Absolutely.
acceptable. I've made myself available to be treated in a poor manners to certain people. And
Absolutely.
as long as I continue to allow it, they're going to continue to think that it's acceptable. People treat you the way that you teach them to treat you.
That you allow them to treat you.
That's it.
Do you believe you deserve better?
Absolutely. I mean,
So,
I know I'm not perfect, but I know where my heart is, and I know what I deserve, and I need to stop allowing it and say, like, don't accept it. And then if you don't accept it and you cut that toxic part out of your life, then guess what? I won't have to sit here and be staying up all night trying to figure out what's wrong with me. How can I change this person? I can't
nothing
change
is wrong
anybody.
with you. Let me stop you right there and tell you there is nothing wrong with you. You were fearfully and wonderfully made. God created you perfect for Him. So there is nothing wrong with you, Desiree. Not a thing. Let me ask you this. Well, let me say this first. Job, what happened to Job when he lost everything?
He still trusted God. He worshiped God because even
He
though the average person would give up, he didn't.
he trusted God, he worshiped
Hmm.
God. And what
He
was his
did.
reward after he lost?
Everything was restored. He had
It
a
was
hundredfold back to him.
it was restored. Job got double for his trouble.
He did. And then we said, even though yeah he slayed me, I still trust him. And it's like when
Amen.
and then when stuff happened to you, people think, look at Joe's friends how they came to him. You must did something wrong. No, he didn't do anything wrong. That he
Hmm.
knew that the love of God was there. It was Satan that came. The only why he's worse for you because the things you gave for him. Job, I'm gonna say this. Job was a man that hey, the things don't define who I am. I am who I am because who God made me as an individual. So the things don't define me. The houses, the car, the land, the bank account don't define me. He
Hmm.
didn't base his faith on those things. His faith
Hmm.
was in God the whole time.
Absolutely.
And even though he went through even though he went through hell, even his wife said, "Oh, you gonna curse God and die." He
Hmm.
still loved God that much to say, "You know what? You sound like a foolish woman." That's how much love he had for God,
Hmm.
and God rewarded him for his faithfulness. If you be faithful of a few things, God will make you rule over
Rule
many.
over many. Absolutely.
Mhm.
So what I'm saying, Desiree, if once you let go and let God, you said, it'll hurt. You'll lose friends and people that haven't been treating you right. You lose those people. Guess what? They can easily be replaced with the right kind of people that belong in your circle.
That's it.
The
That's
right
it.
kind of people will replace those people that belong in your circle.
That's it. That's how, cause how we that's how Desiree's part of the organization, 100 Million Enterprises, and you know how things set things up, and it just had all we like. She came, we did a show, and we hit it off since then. We kind of connected on the back end of the show, and that's how it came about. That's how she came to be on part of the show. Here with me on walking his ways. So God will put people in your, and I agree with you saying, Tanya. God will put people in your the right
Mhm.
people in your path. And so when you start moving those old people out the way,
Mm-hmm.
God will start bringing in the new. God really want to unleash it, but we
Mhm.
just got all that baggage in the way.
That's
So it's
right.
like what Jesus said: old wine and can't put old wine in new
New
wineskin.
bottles. Mm-hmm. That's right.
It'll burst. So he said, I got the stuff for you, but you still keep holding on to this issue. You keep still hold on to this old baggage from 1980 and 1990, and it's 2023, and I want to give you this stuff right now, but we have to get that stuff out the way in order for him to bring it in,
Mm-hmm.
because he
And
already worked that thing out. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, and I get you're not a licensed therapist, but I definitely like appreciate so much for your words of wisdom, because even though I know that you're directing that to me, I know there's going to be people that are, either on now or going to listen back to this that also are going through those same things, and they're going to
Absolutely.
be able to take that and feel that inspiration to
Mm-hmm.
make those healthier decisions for them too. So I really do appreciate it.
You're
Mhm.
welcome. Thank God.
Yeah, and like I said, we did. We appreciate everybody that's hanging out with us in the comment section. Big shout out to everybody. Big shout out to the comments. What was said tonight is truly was on point. It was on time. It was meant to happen on this day on April the 11th, 2023. It was meant to happen. And
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Tanya, I thank you for hanging out with us here and on tonight. We talking about some love. We talking about a lot of stuff. There's some therapy going on, and so it ain't no crying going on, but it's some real therapy going on here on the
Yeah.
podcast.
Not yet. Don't ever, rule it out. Okay.
but it's tears of joy, it's tears of happiness, and it's tears of freedom. Because whom the Son set free is free
Mhm.
indeed.
Indeed. Mm-hmm.
God wants us to be free. We don't have to live in bondage. He said, "You the head and not the tail. You be above and not beneath. You're blessed going in, blessed going out." He wants us to have total freedom, and it's that we put ourselves.
Mhm.
So you mentioned that it's that we hold ourselves back. We keep ourselves in this bondage, not knowing that we're free. It's like that sheep. It's like the gate is open, like a sheep. The sheep know the gate is open, but it's still gonna stay there like it's not open.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So Furman, I'm gonna change this up so it's not so deep or therapeutic for me. I have to say two things. One, I need everybody that's on here live to look at this picture of LaTonya in the behind Furman, because I just want to say fabulous, like absolutely glowing and gorgeous. And I'm totally rocking, or you're rocking. I'm jealous of this. Like I love this whole ensemble you had on this photo that he's got on the display behind him. You look beautiful. So that was my first thing. Yes. So my
Thank
next thing
you.
is do you plan on doing any additional books outside of this one?
Absolutely, Desiree. This is I got issues is not the end of my story. In fact, if I could just chime in real quick and say where I got the title from. So I see that we all are Christians. We are followers of Christ here. So we know the story of the woman with the issue of blood. And so that
Mhm.
woman understood that her healing didn't come until she laid hands on the man of God. She had to reach out and touch the hem of Jesus' garment in order to be healed. So I understood,
Mhm.
with all of my many flaws and many issues, healing does not come until we reach out to touch Jesus. And that's what it is for me. So
Ooh.
more books. Yes, there will be
Yes.
more books. You said trilogy to the second power earlier. So there will be more books, and I am believing and trusting God for a movie.
Oh, I'd love that. Yes. I mean,
Yeah, 'cause better. Go ahead.
Furman, I'm gonna go ahead and put it. She said we're like, so if I don't know if there's anybody that would be able to play that role better than come on. I'm just saying, throw it out there.
Well, for to say this too, we had a movie. Matter of fact, last Saturday, we had a movie director on the podcast. He directed the movie here in Dallas, and it's a possibility we could connect you with him
Furman,
and
yes.
turn your story into a movie. So I would reach out to him, and we could just take it from there.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'd appreciate that. And for those Furman, I don't know if I'm allowed to advertise here,
Writer producer, go ahead, go
but
ahead.
for those that are watching tonight, you can go to my website and find my book, read parts of my story. My book is in my website is igotissues.net. You can find it there. You can order it. igotissues.net. The book launch, like I said earlier, will be April 29th in Mobile, Alabama, my hometown, with all of my family and all of my friends. So there it is. igotissues.net.
Hey, y'all get out there and support. Big shout out
Yes.
to Mobile as well. I got issues. This is a lovely night here on the podcast. Of course, great stuff we have in tonight. And like I said, y'all get out there, purchase the book. Y'all support, man. Support people that's doing great things in the community. Just really benefit. You know what I'm saying? And I know you mentioned the book is on your website, Tanya, as well. Is that the only way to get it? Is it on Amazon yet, or is that's in the work? It's already on Amazon. That's
It,
gonna be
it,
on
it
there.
will be, I'm sorry, it will be on Amazon after the release date.
Okay,
The release date, like I said, is April 29th. So it will be out on Amazon then.
awesome. So let me ask you this: will you be doing any book tours in the near future? That's on your list.
Absolutely. So I'm trying to figure out when you're going to put me down the head to Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. That's a great place to be.
Oh, I connected with some people that's always doing some stuff in the city. I'm serious. Desiree know a lot of people as well.
Hey,
Um,
we can get Cody to help us to help market that
oh yeah,
too.
most definitely. Cody Davis. I connected with him because he one took my newest picture I posted on my Facebook page. Him and his team did that the other day. So the connects I have, we were glad you to connect you with them.
So that's thank you, Furman. I appreciate that. But I will be traveling. I do have some future dates in mind and locations. Just not haven't solidified them just yet.
Oh yeah, hey, it's all about working the spirit of excellence. I believe in that. It's all about having your ducks in a row, but having that spirit of
Hmm.
excellence and patience. I
Hmm.
understand that. So you want to work in excellence. So I agree with that. I love excellence because it's your baby, it's your product, it's your vision, it's your brand. And what you gonna do?
Hmm.
You gonna take it's like your child.
Mhm.
You take care of your child, so you're gonna take care of your business. I understand that. So hey, we can make
Mhm.
something happen. I love you connect with the people that I know here.
Yeah, please do. Thank you.
Oh, no problem.
And I would love to connect with you more just because I definitely would love to put all of what I have jotted down into something a little bit better. Um so yeah, I mean, I've already got the title picked out for my book too. I just don't know if that's like something you should say out loud until like the book comes out, because what if somebody steals your title? Is that kind of like how musicians are too? Will that
Yeah.
happen? I don't know.
Yeah, hold on
Um
to your title. Hold on to your title for now because it has not been copywritten and you don't want anybody to use your title. So hold on to that. But
Mhm.
Desiree, I will be glad to give you what somebody gave to me.
Love it.
Somebody else helped me and I'll be glad to pay it forward and show you exactly what I did to get here.
Love it. Thank you. That would be amazing, because I know that there's a lot of things that I have gone through, that there's somebody out there, even if it only touches one person, if it just makes a difference for one person, then it's worth telling my story. That's how I've always viewed it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and that's it.
Mhm.
So I know you got the book. Um, what else? ton you got going on. You're an author, you're a wife, you're a mother, you're a
I am.
teacher. What's the next thing? Is you're a model because you take a model picture. You're a little
That's
model. What?
like, oh yeah.
I just threw it
No,
out there.
no,
I mean,
no.
it's like you just living your best life. I don't want to say they say your best life now. It's like you living your best life. You're having fun. You totally free. You just really enjoying
Mhm.
your life, and that's the beautiful thing about it. So, what's the next thing in store for you and your family?
So outside of the books, I just want to do what the Lord tells me to do. So, right now he has me on this path, to inspire other people, to help them to get their stories out, to let them know that they have a voice. Michelle said it earlier. She was the one with no voice. Me too, Michelle. I was the one that was afraid to raise my hand to even answer a question in school. I had total social anxiety. And so, Furman is just
Mhm.
doing what thus says the Lord for me, whatever, however he directs me. Like I know, I'll be reaching out to you soon so you can help me in this podcast business. So yeah, that's basically it. My book right now, continue teaching my empowered women's class every Wednesday night. Um, and inspiring others to grow and tell their stories. All of us have a voice and we all should be heard.
Yeah, most definitely. You gotta be heard at all times. It's something I want to ask about that one too. Cause last stuff was covered. Let's talk about and I would listen to y'all ladies talk, and it made me think about your worth, knowing your value. Ruby's value, diamonds value, and I remember Ty Tribbett, the recording artist, was doing this sermon, and he had a $20 bill, and then he called this girl up, the individual or whatever. He had a $20 bill, and he stepped on it. He threw it against the wall, and he asked the girl, "Would you still take it?" And she said, "Yeah." Even though he stepped on it and he did all this, and you still, she said, "Yeah," because at the end of the day, that $20 still gonna spin, even though it was all balled up and trampled on. It's still gonna spin. And that's how you should know you were. Even though we were beat up, misused, abused, and everything else, you still have value to yourself. And that's something you have to look at yourself in the mirror and tell you, hey, I'm still valued. Because what the Bible tells me, I'm an apple of God's eye. I have to remind myself of that. And a lot of times we hear this stuff, we read it, but we don't believe it. It's like
Mhm.
knowing who you are,
Mhm.
love who you are, and then a lot of times, Toya had brought up, mentioned, holding on to stuff, holding on to our past, not forgiving ourselves, even though we made that decision at that time. Some people still hunted by their past. They still hunted about their situation they went through in their life, their trauma, the thing they did they thought they should
Mhm.
never did, but they still. How and I know how do you? Well, I don't want to give too much of your book, but how do you have stuff dealing in the book dealing with helping people overcome their past, overcome when I say their past, they may did something that they don't want nobody they're ashamed about, but they still play the image in their minds. Did your book have something dealing with that also? Because think about it, I got issues, so it's like we replay that in our head over and over again.
So, Furman, I would say the book does not exactly touch on having, how to overcome the things of the past, but
Right.
it does basically talk about how to be healed,
Okay.
how to be healed from
Mhm.
different scenarios that I have in the book. How
Okay.
to be healed. Earlier we mentioned, Desiree and I, we have as a preschooler, you know, I was touched, by my family member, by my uncle. And I consider myself being a late bloomer because from preschooler, and I'll tell my age, I'm 51 years old, and I this thing was not released from me. It hadn't been released only until just a few years ago. So I carried that from being 5 or 6 years old all the way until my late 40s. I carried that. So I had to finally be healed of it, though. I had to, Furman, stop blaming myself. Stop looking at the situation for what it was. I had to also forgive. I had to forgive the person that caused the trauma. I had to forgive. I had to forgive, and I had to verbally speak it. I had to release it.
And that what you said. You had to release it. And that should be something right there. You had to release it. To those that's listening, like you have to release whatever you're going through, whatever you're dealing with. You have to release it. And then that's the battle, because what, you versus you. And that's what we have to overcome. It's overcoming you versus you. It's not, a lot of people talk about I got haters and I got doubters, and but a lot of times our biggest enemy be ourselves. We
It's
be our own
ourselves.
worst enemy. And we put our
Mhm.
own self in these situations. We get in our own way and overcome. And it's not an overnight thing. It's a process. And a lot of times people think, oh, I got it today. No, it's an ongoing process. If you want to become a doctor, you got to go to med school. You're not just gonna look on YouTube and say, oh, they showed me how to be a doctor on YouTube. Nah, you won't have to go to school to be a doctor. And so that means it takes. And how long does it take to complete med school? It's like how many years? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
It's a lot, but don't underestimate this
Right.
mama when she does the WebMD for her kids to fix those boo boos. Okay. My kids better not be watching this. I am a doctor. I'm YouTube certified. I
but
can fix your problems.
but it's just a matter the time it takes in order you to get the skills, and that's
And
how
it,
life is. Go ahead.
yeah, no, it does take time. And it takes, I think for me, the biggest thing that I have been trying to find growth in is just loving myself for the flaws, loving myself for the damage that was done. And the truth is, all that trauma was damage to me. It's damage to
Mhm.
you mentally, it's damage to you
Mhm.
physically, but knowing that I am still of value, and
Mhm.
really I
That's
can't
it.
expect anybody else to see how much I'm worth until I can see how much I'm worth. And that's
That's it.
something that I still continue to
Mhm.
grow on. I have definitely come a long way, even though y'all would not believe that after I asked all the other questions, but I promise you I have. But and I had said this on an earlier podcast that Furman and I done together is, I've worked a lot, as a social worker with, teenagers, young, adolescents and stuff that have said the same thing. Like I'm not any good. Nobody's gonna want me, that were suicidal because they felt like all the trauma that happened to them, that there was no value to them. Even for a long time, I didn't speak up about being molested because I thought, what man is going to want a woman who was molested by the man that was her father? Like, you think you are damaged. And so I
Mhm.
had said, on an earlier podcast that I, one day was just talking to this young lady and I told her, I said, we're all, we're all guilty of whenever you go into a store and you see like you go to get some toothpaste and you see one of the boxes is all damaged in on one end or something. And so you move that one to the side, you get that perfect
You don't
that
want it.
perfect
That's
box,
right.
right?
Mhm.
Or you go down the canned good aisle, you don't pick the can up that has the whole side of it dented in. You pick up the can that's perfect with the label all still intact, right? But in reality of it is that those tubes of toothpaste, those canned goods could have all just came on the same exact flat to be put on that shelf. And
Mhm.
so what's inside those canned goods are equally the same. They're both very good. They're both have their full value.
Mhm.
They're
Mhm.
going to do the same job. I have my scars. My box is dented. My label's been peeled. And but what's inside of me did not change.
That's
What's
right.
inside me as a person and what I have to offer to others, to myself, that has a lot of value. And I have to stop looking at those scars, those bruises, those things that other people,
Hmm.
might know and might see and say, that doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. And so it wasn't until I
Right.
was talking to that young lady and I told her, and this young girl, and the reason that made me come up with that to her is she was actually burnt with cigarettes, as part of her abuse
Hmm.
from her parents.
Mm.
And and she was like, look how ugly this is. Like, nobody wants somebody that has this all over them. And I told her, I said, but is what's on that outside the same thing that's on the inside? Does that match? And she's like, no, I know that I want to love and be loved. And I said, then don't let those scars on the outside stop you from getting exactly what you need. Oh, that is so sweet. Um, but for me, like, it was not until that moment that I thought, I felt her. I really related to what she was saying. I was so worried about what people saw on the outside. And we do that even not with abuse. Let's be honest. we're all guilty of thinking that if we're not skinny enough, if our hair isn't long enough, if our, do we have too curly of hair, too straight of hair, too thin, too full? We think about it with, everything, our breasts, our, whether or not if our flat rear ends. We all think like, oh, we can't be loved because of these physical things that people are seeing. But really, honest to God, do we want people to love us for those physical things, or do we want them to take the time and invest in what's on the inside of us? And that's what we should be more focused on.
Desiree, can I say this to add to that, because I feel like this just might help some single mother that's listening. One of my issues was the fact that prior to being married, I had 3 children by 3 different fathers. And I thought I would never have a man to marry me because I had 3 kids with 3 dads. I thought that my value was so decreased because of that issue, and that wasn't the case. In fact, my ex-husband didn't have children when we married, so I felt, that changed a lot of things for me, even though I felt like my value had plummeted because of that. Me having 3 children by 3 different men did not define who I was. It didn't define it.
And I agree with you, and going back to, what I'd said earlier about, the whole God won't give you more than what you can handle thing. I had flashbacks on that whenever I, in my 20s, had to have a hysterectomy, for, cancer reasons. And I thought, why is God punishing me? Like, am I not a good enough mother to have more children? I loved my kids. I mean, honest to God, my kids I think are what truly saved me from a lot of depression, a lot of thinking I couldn't go on anymore. Every day when I looked at those boys' faces, I thought, this is why I go on. This is why I'm still here. And I told you, Furman, I'd get emotional on one of these days, okay? And so for me, I felt like I was being punished by God for that. And it was not until years later that, after I divorced my first husband and then I became a new wife, that he had children. And I thought, you know what? God wasn't stopping me from being a mom to... that wasn't the end of it. I thought in that moment, yes. But you know what? Like we've said on this show earlier, God has a plan for us all. Amen. That plan is that, you know what? I was going to be in a position later on that I was going to be loving somebody else's children as my own. And so I do take it very serious. I do take, when you decide to be a step parent, whether that's a father or a mother, you take that child on to love as your own when you know what you're getting yourself into. And so I mentioned on an earlier podcast, when I divorced my second husband, his oldest son, who, I had since, he was 11. And when we went to court for our divorce, the judge said, are you going to go back to the state he was from and live with your mom, or are you going to stay with your dad? And he said, neither. He said, I'm going to stay with Desiree. And the judge was like, well, that's kind of up to her, because that's her choice. Like, she'd have to then take legal responsibility for you, and so everybody's looking at me, and I looked right at that judge and I said, he's my son. I'm not divorcing my son, I'm divorcing his father. And I said, absolutely, I'll take him. And I did. And and nobody else understood it. And then it was so hard later, because I thought, how is another man going to understand that I'm raising a child that I didn't even birth? And I thought, like, who's going to want to get into this? Now I have my own 2 sons, but I have another son that's not even biologically mine. But I thought, you know what, if that man can't love me for the fact that I would take and still raise another child that I did not birth, because that's who I am, then that man didn't deserve me anyways.
That's right.
Right. That's right. And that's awesome. Like I said, some great stuff here. Of course, it's also great stuff here. And I know we about to go ahead. I know about to get off the air, of course. So we doing a great show tonight. Let's talk about. Go ahead, Tanya. Go ahead and plug in all your information, your social media outlets. How can they follow you? How can they subscribe? Purchase the book. Go ahead.
So everything for me is once again on that website, igotissues.net. You can subscribe to me there. Also on Facebook. You can email me at lmw at I Got Issues. IGotIssues.net again. So everything is IGotIssues.net. My name is LaTonya M Whitehead. Unfortunately, we were having technical difficulties earlier. I see my husband's name is up on the screen, but I am LaTonya M Whitehead. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram at IGotIssues.net. Once again, I Got Issues. I don't know a person that it's not extinct from having issues. So that's
I
what this
love it. And that could have been a better title, could it, Michelle? I mean, you know what? If you're going to get a message out
Right.
there saying that is like the most honest, title you could possibly put out there. And I love it. Like the minute Furman said that you were going to be our guest and that you had this and it was called I Got Issues, I was like, Michelle, you're going to join us again, right? Because Saturday was her first time on the show with us. And trust me, Michelle, I'm going to call us out. We've got issues. And that was the whole reason behind, us wanting to do our girl chat, podcast, was because we wanted to be able to have a place that other women could come on and talk about the issues that they're going through, get advice, just vent, have that girlfriend kind of, collaboration together. And so, a lot of times you find that people will open up and talk more when it's not somebody that they're worried that they're going to get judged from, like that they have to see every day, or from a family member. So we wanted to be, we wanted something that we could just have girlfriends getting together. And I think Michelle, as soon as we get that podcast up and going, I know who we've got to have on with us,
Absolutely.
because I think
Have
she
me
would be
there.
We
amazing.
have to.
Absolutely.
Yes, of course.
Man, that's it. So I did put the website, I got issues.net on across the screen. So y'all go check out the website. Support. That's all you have to do. Support. Show Tonya some love, and just keep doing what you're doing. Tonya, I appreciate you. We appreciate you taking time out your productive schedule to hang out with us here. And big shout out to you as well, Michelle, for being our featured guest co-host. You and Desiree have the two
Thanks
Madame
for having me.
podcast. Oh, don't be a stranger. Michelle, you're welcome anytime. So never be a stranger. We love having you with us here and everything else. And it's me being the only guy out here tonight. We're surrounded by all these beautiful
I know,
women.
where is Daquan at? Like, I haven't has he even chimed in yet tonight, because
Well,
I'm always looking for his
he
little
did
hype.
earlier.
He did.
He did say
Mhm.
great. He did. He was in the comments said, "I know he'd be with us tomorrow night here on the show." But surrounded by all these beautiful women on the show. But hey, I love y'all, ladies. Thank y'all for what y'all doing, and just keep doing what y'all doing. Oh, matter of fact, go ahead, Michelle. Go ahead and plug in your information as well. How can people follow you? How can they subscribe? Go ahead.
All right, so Desiree and I are co-hosting together a girlfriend chit chat podcast called Two Madams. You can follow us on Instagram. It's at 2TWO, Two Madams. Again, infant baby stage. We're still building it. It's brand new. It's been in talks and works for years, but we're finally we're gonna do it. So follow along on the journey with us.
And congratulations on that too, ladies. Y'all keep up the great work.
Thank
Make it
you.
happen. You welcome, like Nike. Just do it. Don't put off tomorrow when you can do today. That's how I look at it, because tomorrow's not
Exactly.
promised. But hey, it's on your heart to do it. God
Mhm.
put in your heart to do it. Go for it. You know what I'm saying? So, like they
Yeah.
always saying, and now I know we about to agree to get out. We got to do the show tomorrow night too. Now you really got to be grinding tonight after the show, putting everything together. It's always work to be done. Even though I work a full time job, I still
Mhm.
have to do my work with the podcast. We're promoting, marketing,
Mhm.
uploading videos, clips on all different. And big shout out to everybody who's following us on TikTok, liking us. Also, if you're on LinkedIn, I am on LinkedIn now. So hey, holla at me on LinkedIn. I'm putting clips of the show as well. Desiree on LinkedIn, so people can watch and want to connect with some big time people too. So we're trying to do some networking going on. We also on Apple Podcasts. So this episode will be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Give a big shout out to everybody who listens on Spotify, Apple Podcasts,
Yes.
Google Podcasts, and all social
Yay.
media platforms as well. So that is telling you that people can go and listen to Apple and Spotify. So subscribe And iHeart, yeah, that's right. We're on iHeart too. iHeart podcast as well, also. So this episode will be on all social media
You'll get to see
platforms.
little clips too on Twitter and TikTok. We do like to share those on those as well. So anybody that has that social media, please go on there, like it, share it. Hopefully, even though it's just a little snippet that you can also include on those, social media feeds. We hope that others will go on and be able to go back and listen to the podcast or go back to YouTube and see what we've talked about, because there is so much great information throughout the entire show when we have these guests on, that we would love for you guys to share that so that other people can hear that message that was, given today by the teachings of the wonderful Tanya, who did not realize how much of a teacher she was until I, have to remind her.
That's right. That's right.
And I definitely, so for me, also, I work for the City of Dallas City Attorney's Office for the Veterans Treatment Court. So if anybody that's listening has citations within the City of Dallas, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. And you can definitely reach me at Desiree, which is desire with an extra E, period, Bailey at dallas.gov. Also with marriage management, which is building a good toolbox for veteran relationships. We have that's at marriagemanagement.org. And we do have classes coming up. We have one on the 22nd, I believe in El Paso, the 22nd in Colorado. We also have one on the 22nd in Killeen. But there are other ones coming up in San Antonio. We have some additional classes in El Paso as well. So please make sure that you guys go to marriagemanagement.org. Hit how to register. It'll tell you all the different locations that we're at. We just came back from New Jersey as well as Hawaii. We did 2, events there. Heroes Rise Alliance, also for veterans. There's a Facebook page to that if you guys will go on and like that. And on the 27th, is that a Thursday? 27th, I think it is. We will have our Coffee and Community podcast. You can find that on YouTube. And that will be the 27th, and it's all about sharing veteran resources. I'm one of the panelists, along with a couple other of my wonderful friends that all do veteran services. So go on there for that. And on the 22nd, if anybody's in the West Dallas area, come by the Multi-Purpose Center at 2828 Fish Trap Road and join us for the 100 Men Enterprise workshop that I will be leading on the 22nd. So that's my 2 cents.
Man, that's what's up right there.
Awesome,
Keep it the great work. Awesome work. Keep it the great work. Having fun. We got a lot of like I said, tomorrow we back here tomorrow night. Tomorrow night we got some music artists. We got a music artist. We got a music artist group tomorrow night on the podcast. And then we got a singer out of Atlanta that's gonna be with us Saturday morning. So this kind of gonna be like a music week. Wednesday and Saturday. So hey, tune in, hang out with us on Wednesday night and Saturday morning. So that's gonna be interesting. Like I said, we got a lot of jammed up shows for the month of April. Next month, the month of May, we're gonna be doing our new series called The New Faces of Dallas. So if you're around the DFW area, whether you business or music or whatever, as long as positive, we are interviewing. We got some people already lined up for the month of May for the New Face of Dallas. Oh, we opened up the calendar for June as well. So we got 2 already booked up for June. So I'll be working on that, putting that into the rotation as well. Because I don't want to overbook, because when you got so much stuff going on and you trying to, I got this date open, and you realize I don't have this date open. So I'm planning and being more organized. So I really want you, if I give you a date, make sure you get onto that date. I don't want to prolong it, because you got people who are ready to be on the show. And if they ready to be on the show, I'm just going to give that slot to them because they ready to go. So don't be prolonging. Procrastination, you can't procrastinate, because this thing is going on. And also, if you watching us on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We want to get up to 100K subscribers. That's the goal. So go to our YouTube channel, subscribe. Let everybody know about it. Come and share. Also, we having a website coming up too as well. So Cody Davis and his team is going to be doing our website. Big shout out to him. And we will be accepting donations too via pen pal. So it will be a donation up on our website. So if you want to donate to the podcast, hey, we glad for you to do that. We're gonna have merchandise too. We got a store. So we have T-shirts, everything you name it, gonna be on the everything to support the podcast, booking engagements. We doing other interviews outside the podcast as well. I got invited to be on another podcast on LinkedIn. The guy that's over, it's a Christian podcast, and he asked me, he wants me to be a guest on that on his podcast. So get with him, and when that settled, I'll let everybody know when that's gonna happen. Uh, it's not a great big shout out to Shay. She's not with us tonight. Shay,
Yes.
Ursula in the corner as well. It's so much stuff going on that we got so much work we're doing. So
But
if
I
I
love
did,
it because that means that we're being so we're connecting. We're growing and I love it. You know, we like to say, what is it you say? We're not busy, we're being productive.
productive, that's it.
That's it. And
That's it.
and I love, that we are able to just also connect so many different people on this podcast, with additional resources, networking each other to help support each other, lifting each other up. And I think that's what's so amazing about us all coming together on here.
That's it. And
Right.
like I said, Desiree, clips of this gonna be on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a major business platform. You got people that work for Paramount, uh, record labels, sports. So I'm really getting into that arena as well. So I'm taking clips of the show, putting it on LinkedIn so people can say, yeah, I get on LinkedIn too. I just no, who told me to get on LinkedIn? Cody. He said you need to get on LinkedIn. You need to get on LinkedIn.
Yes.
So I am on LinkedIn. I'm more active on there. So I'm really gonna be plugging shows on that. So we really want to get this thing out because I've been doing this since 2009. It's time for this thing to go full fledged, financially wise, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the goal to really another thing that's right. I remember Coach asked me about a studio. He said, if they'll open up a studio and have mics, would I come and do it? Y'all come and do it. You had the studio, I'd be glad to. And I know Desiree, you'd be
I
glad
have a
to.
place. I have a place that you could do it. They've got a
You know,
full studio on, like, honestly, I got a place. I will see if when they will have it open. I've got a place where they've got it all set up. It's like this whole like sounded out room just for doing podcast on it.
I don't know. So I gotta give a big shout
See?
out to my also listen, I gotta give a big shout out to my nephew's grandmother. She's watching and she said, hey Maurice. Maurice is my middle name. I want to let everybody know that.
She called you out. Now I know what I'm going to
Yeah,
call
that's
you
my
when you're
middle name. That's my middle
texting me in
name.
the middle of the night, sending me podcast stuff. I'm going to be like, Maurice, knock it off. Girl, got to sleep.
Yeah, so that's my nephew's grandmother. She's watching tonight. Okay, it's a small world. I didn't know that Tanya knew my nephew. I didn't
Uh-huh.
know that. Small world. I'm very proud of my nephew, Jay. We call him J Man. I'm very proud of him. He's very active. Big shout out to his mom and stuff. I'm very proud of that young man. I really am. I don't really talk to like I talk to. I gotta get back and talk to him. I know he talks to my mom, his grandmother, all the time. But I'm very proud of you, Jay man. If you're watching, keep up the great work. I remember when I turned 40 last year. He gonna say, "You getting old? I need a cane and all this other stuff." Man, that's still young, but and I've been wanting him to come out here and visit me. He told my mom he went flying. And I was like, man, that's a long drive. 9 hours from Mobile to here, like 9 hours took me to get
Mm-hmm.
here. And that drive ain't no joke. I fly. At least you fly like like an
You miss
hour or
out on
something.
so much.
No, I drove by myself, and that's a long drive. It's like,
I did the drive from Montana back to Texas. I did it 8 times in 1 year. Do you realize that is 28 hours one way?
Wow.
well,
And I drove it straight through every time, but I did it 8 times in 1 year, okay? But you miss out on living when you're not driving, okay?
yeah, but I was by myself, but
I was by myself. He's like, I'm
but
by myself.
but I was on a mission assignment to get here, but I fly. It's like I fly you here or something like that. And you go take the city out then. But now we about to get off this show. We did it again. We did almost 2 hours. We did it again. Then the show has been getting longer now. Get the heart. If you watch this on YouTube, man, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow if you on Twitter, let us know you on Twitter. We love to follow y'all on Twitter. Y'all can check us out. We're on Twitter right now going live.
Wow.
Facebook Live. We're not on Instagram. I don't know. I guess Vince will do Instagram Live as well. I have to figure out how they do that too as well. But TikTok, uh, LinkedIn, there's a lot of stuff going on. And that's it. So before we ready to get off the air, Tanya, do you have any final remarks you want to leave here with the listening audience that's gonna listen?
I do. First off, I wanna thank you once again, Furman. It's been great. We, like I said, we met years ago in ministry, and you're still doing it, and I just applaud you, and I really appreciate it. Uh, Desiree, Michelle, it's been an honor meeting you, and to my family and friends that are here watching, thank you so much for joining and supporting. Writing this book, has really shown me, you know people that really love you. I know I have to hurry. I went to a funeral this past week, and one of the things the pastor said in the funeral that stuck with me was, "Love them while they're living." We have to love people
Mhm.
while they're living and here with us. So, to those of you that have shown me love,
Mhm.
those of you who've purchased the book already, those of you that have been viewing my site and telling others about the book, I thank you. But I will leave this one last nugget with you, and that is, each of us, each and every one of us has a story. It's important. It's important that we release what's on the inside. It's important that we release the story. It's important because the releasing of the story allows us to heal. Whether that be
Mhm.
releasing on a couch with the therapist, but it's important that we let it out, that we have an outlet. It's so important to have an outlet. When we hold those things down, it causes other illnesses and other things to happen to us. Once again, my
Mhm.
book, The Woman with the Issue of Blood, her one blood issue caused other things to happen. She ended up with financial troubles, going to doctor after doctor seeking healing. So many other things. With losing a lot of blood, losing blood for 12 years, that means she had to be anemic, right?
Right.
So we have to learn to have an outlet, trust the process. God loves you, and I'm sorry, Desiree, but he will not put no more on you than you can bear. He won't do it. Each one of us
Mhm.
were designed with a storm in mind. He created us to be able to handle problems, issues, and circumstances.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just say it one last time. Tell your story, release it some kind of way.
That's it. That's it. Tell your story. And that's it right there. Tell your story. We're gonna leave it out with that. We're proud of ourselves. We made it to our 2 hours. So we proud again. Kudos to everything. The show is getting longer, but we love it. And like I said, we about to get ready to get off the show. And remember the graveyard. Everybody had one thing in common. They thought they were gonna see tomorrow, and they didn't. Let's live life like
Mhm.
it is our last. And most important, man, love yourself, respect yourself, cherish yourself. Tell yourself, I'm gonna succeed. Tell yourself I'm gonna conquer. Tell yourself I am gonna be successful. Tell yourself that I am gonna make it. Tell yourself I already made it. Tell yourself I'm the head and I'm not the tail. Tell yourself I'm above and I
Mhm.
never be beneath. Tell yourself I'm blessed going in, blessed going out. Tell yourself I'm beautiful. Tell yourself I'm handsome. Tell yourself I'm smart. Tell yourself I'm wise. Tell yourself I'm rich. Speak these things because the Bible said death and life is in the power of the tongue to eat the fruit thereof. So speak life and you're gonna eat the fruit of it. It's gonna have to come to pass because the words are powerful. And of course, me, Desiree, Daquan, and Michelle, if you want to hang out with us tomorrow night, you're more welcome to. Just hey, the invitation's open. I send the invitation. If you want to hang out with us tomorrow night here on the show, it's you welcome. Like I said, we gonna be back here tomorrow night here on Walking This Way Impact Wars podcast. You want to watch the replay, it will be up on YouTube. The auto version will be up on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So if you on Apple, click the notification. You will get this episode on your phone or wherever you listen to us at. We'll be back here tomorrow night, everybody. Have a great night. Peace, everybody. See you tomorrow night here on
Thank you,
Walking This
Furman.
Way.
Bye
You're
bye.
welcome. Bye bye.
Bye.
Walking This
Thanks.
Way, Impact Voice Podcast.